All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started. I have a Black Mirror episode for you from the first season, as well as a Melania Trump crypto scam, another house explosion in Austin, Texas this time, decimated an entire neighborhood. Got some footage of that for you. And of course, Donald Trump militarizing the border, just like Gaza. Lots going on, you guys. Let's start with this Black Mirror episode. I was finally able to screen the first episode of the new season. It released on April 10th. Yet, check this out. In the days leading up to the release of this episode, we did a couple of videos, didn't we? That were all about what this episode is going to be about. Now, how did we know this? Well, we all know, but this is going to be shocking. If you've been following the channel, it's going to sound like you're in an echo chamber. You're going to be like, I just heard that on Casey's video. Yet, this episode didn't come out until April 10th. These are the videos that we did on the very subject. Let's get into this, you guys. This is crazy. Black Mirror.
So basically we make a backup of part of her brain onto our computer, and incredibly simple. So we take an imprint of the affected part of her neural structure and we clone it onto our mainframe. And then we remove the tumor and then we replace what we removed with.
So what is this episode about? Well, I'm going to explain it to you right now. Let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see this. This is about AI consciousness appearing human. And again, these were the very subjects that we were talking about in the days leading up to the release of this episode that nobody had seen yet. And basically what happens is this guy's wife, she has some kind of brain event where she basically has some kind of stroke or seizure or something, and she's not going to wake up. So this company comes in and offers her a replace part of her mind, a digital copy, and she's revived from brain death. Except it comes with some strings attached. Now, the part of her missing mind, it's not put back in her brain. It's streamed from Starlink. And when she goes outside of the service area, she blacks out. Let's keep watching here.
Synthetic receiver tissue. And the surrounding tissue.
Isn't that dangerous?
Well, normally, yeah. But we made a backup, remember? And then the Rivermind system transmits cognitive function from the backup on the cloud-based server.
So the ADIs buzz from flower to flower and spread pollen, which is the same way organic bees used to do.
Now here's the giveaway. The beginning of the episode, they talk about AI honeybees that replace real bees. They're essentially android bodies with an AI consciousness downloaded into them. And that is the clue that this is the singularity that they're going for. They're going for android bodies with consciousness streamed into them or held into them. This is insane. Now, understand that Elon Musk is all part of this, okay? This is why they set up Starlink. This is going to be, they're basically going to stream consciousness because they don't have enough room within the robot to hold all the data, because these are massive amounts of data. So Starlink is going to hook up with Stargate AI, and they're going to stream the AI through Starlink. They're literally telling us what they're going to do, you guys. They're literally telling us. Let's keep watching.
Does anyone know how autonomous drone insects help with flowers? Anyone? Tisha.
Polarization.
We are upgrading some of our towers. And the ones in Palmer County are on the new bandwidth. Rivermind Plus, that's what this is. This is the rollout.
How much is the plus?
Now, The company who did this surgery is called Rivermind, and they keep upping the subscription fee for the couple to be able to leave outside the service area. They keep upselling them. So essentially they're trapped. They're trapped in this payment structure, this payment scheme. And in order to have any quality of life, they just have to keep paying more and more and more. You guys, this is our reality right now. This is what it feels like. I'm 52 years old, and the amount of things that you have to pay for has tripled. Tripled. Some people wonder why they're broke, and then they look and they realize that they're signed up to all these things that are essentially vampirizing their bank accounts. Streaming services, insurances, all these things. And it's like a burden. And the controllers know that they're doing this, but they do it anyway. Let's keep watching here.
On top of the existing package. So it is $500 a month.
We can't.
You don't have to worry about that. I mean, if you choose not to upgrade, you'll just stay on Rivermind Common.
Common?
And you
Have you tried Espresso Grande?
Now, I think what they're showing us here is the electronic fence that will hold us all in these cities because, once you're outside the service area, you can't charge your electric vehicle. You can't get an internet connection. Heck, you won't even be able to get, what is it called? When you have to get your, what's the word I'm looking for? Navigation. So you don't even know where you're going once you're outside the service area. This is how they are going to trap us unless we stand up and say something about all this. All right. So this is where it's all headed. Let's keep watching here. Now, at this point, things go from bad to worse. So the original plan that they signed up for to stream her consciousness back into her was only $300 a month. And even at that, they thought that was a lot of money. Well, at some point, that's not enough anymore. And they start literally running ads through his wife. And they don't know what it is. She just starts randomly popping off advertisements. Watch.
Have you tried Espresso Grande? The beans are roasted slow and long for a richer, smoother taste. The sweetest way to start your day. Kids love honey. That's why parents love Honey Nugs. Whole grain chunks covered in golden Tupelo honey. Families that stay together bask in the glow of Christ's heart. For more information on faith-based family counseling, visit christsheart.com. What?
Oh, this is insane, right? It's kind of funny, but it's not, because this is our reality. Once they have you electronically, they have you. We're almost there now. People have grown dependent on technology. They think, oh, nothing to see here. Electric cars are great until you drive outside the service area, right? Now, next, in an attempt to be able to afford all these upgrades for his wife, the husband goes onto this website. And it's kind of like the TV series Jackass. Remember that? Where they basically got views because of the crazy stuff that they did. And people would watch it for entertainment. Well, now it's online. So you go online and people on the other end will pay you to do things to yourself or whatever. Doing stupid stuff, pulling your tooth out. And by the end of it, I won't ruin it for you guys, but needless to say, he basically will do anything to keep streaming his wife. Let's keep watching here.
Oh, yeah, that's a commercial message.
Jesus Christ.
See?
So you're running ads through me? You're like giving me like commercial.
While
So here's the name of the site. It's called Dumb Dummies. Become a creator. Make stupid money by just, abusing yourself for other people's gratification, which is another sign of a very sick society. So he goes on and he wears what appears to me to be some kind of evil black rabbit mask. It almost looks like Batman, but I didn't want to make the connection because the ears were way too long for it to be Batman. So it's basically a black rabbit. Now, as time goes on, there are so many ads coming out of his wife that she's barely even there. She's just a walking advertisement. And this could be, I think the metaphor here is like social media influencers. At some point, they become a walking advertisement. You know, some people complain about the 6 or 7 ads that you have to endure on this channel. Okay. That's YouTube. That's their payment structure. If people have a problem with that, complain to YouTube about that. You can't stay on YouTube as a viable channel and a voice unless you're invested in their payment structure. This is how they pay their bills. Okay. And how I pay my bills. And I like that alternative versus me becoming a walking advertisement. In other words, you know, those channels you watch and literally half of whatever content that they're producing, they're talking about this network they want you to sign up for and selling you sleep mattresses and gold and all this stuff. And I think everybody would agree you'd rather have a couple ads you could skip through rather than me turning into a walking commercial, right? Because then we can stick to the content. Now, let's keep watching here.
While you're in sleep mode, our servers are harnessing your spare processing capabilities.
So then they find out that she's been sleeping more and more and more. And at this point, essentially, they realize that she's been harvested. They're harvesting her mind, essentially, for processing power. In other words, they're probably using her brain, the rest of the brain that's not active. Let's keep watching.
To help with the overall workload.
Sights, sounds, flavors.
Then they tell her about another upgrade because basically they make them feel some pain so that there's an incentive to upgrade, right? And at this point, they say, hey, we got a new product. And it is Rivermind Lux, which can actually enhance your sensations. So you pay a little bit more and you can dial up all these emotional states.
Even the feeling of this breeze. And Rivermind Lux doesn't just keep your brain running, it heightens your senses.
Now, there's so many metaphors here. It's really just troubling, isn't it? The fact that the man is willing to give up his own body to keep the dream alive, right? And you start realizing that these are metaphors for the things that we are willing to do to keep up our lifestyles and things like this. And they literally tell you that we are the dumb ones who sign up for things like an experimental brain treatment that makes us dependent on the medical establishment for the rest of our lives. And at a certain point, she's just a walking advertisement. And it forces her husband to just continue to upgrade her because she just sleeps all the time. And they're not happy anymore. You almost get the impression she was better off in a coma. But the guy's holding on to the prior version of her. And at some point you start to think, wow, I wonder if whatever happened to her brain was intentional so that they could segue her into this dependence and essentially make a bunch of money off of them. It becomes clear at some point that they're trapped in this Ponzi scheme nightmare with these endless upsells and upgrades just to stay current. And you know what it reminds me of? Let me go back into the chat and then we'll get into some of these other news stories. What it reminds me of are cell phones. Now, I hate purchasing new phones, okay? When I started this channel in 2012, I remember Verizon was doing a special on iPhones, a literal iPhone. It was the small one, but I think I got that phone on an upgrade for $50. Many of you will remember that era of cell phones. What happened to a $50 phone? They do not exist anymore. The cheapest phone you can buy now is $200. And after about 3 years, your phone simply stops working. I bought a phone, let's see, when was that phone? 2020? 2020, I bought a phone. It no longer worked. It just keeps getting slower and slower. It keeps holding less and less apps. The apps simply stop working, even though it says it's approved for a certain app, because you have to update the app, and the app updates are not compatible with your operating system. So these cell phones are made to basically stop working in 3 to 5 years. That is our life. And this is what this whole episode was about. Now, what I forgot to mention is at a certain point, her husband's plan of, doing this whole thing online to get money, it backfires on him. And the people at work, they recognize him, and they start pranking him and putting stuff up on the work board, showing pictures of him and what he's done to himself to pay for his wife. He gets fired, and they have no way to pay for the upgrades. And when they go back to Rivermind to ask for a break, the answer is no. And at some point, they tell Rivermind that they were planning on having a baby, and that this was the whole purpose of bringing his wife back, so that they could become pregnant. But get this, the saleswoman tells them that pregnancy is extra, and she makes up some story about why that is, about more brain power being required. And then, so when you draw this thing out to its natural conclusion, you realize that the singularity of all this is that they don't want new babies to be born. They want no flesh left. I'm not going to spoil the ending for you, but needless to say, this is a spoof on real life scenarios and where everything's headed. Slaves to the medical system, slaves to technology in the pursuit of extending life. And this is how they get people to sign up for these things. Now, let's hop off of Black Mirror. And of course, I'm going to keep going with all the episodes, see what I can find, and I'll do decodes for you guys. But let's get into some news headlines. Another house explosion. Now, there's some video on this. I don't know if they actually show the explosion. Let's see here. This is pretty crazy, you guys. This was in Austin, Texas. They felt the explosion miles away. It damaged 24 homes. Massive explosion. I'm sure it measured on the Richter scale. And the guy actually survived this, but he's in critical condition. Imagine the story he's going to tell. And you got to wonder what this is all about. Now, we talked about house explosions being a mechanism of the deep state to silence dissent, to take people out, key people. And if you think this is all made up, understand that these kinds of scenarios played out in, for instance, the TV series Westworld. One of the latest seasons of Westworld, there was a literal artificial intelligence called Rehoboam. And it would use AI to calculate risk in the balance of world politics, all the way down to the level of individuals. And it would decide who needed to die in order to keep the balance. And it would literally randomly go and assassinate people. And it would use different ways to conceal it, to cover it up. And I believe that's what's happening right now. Let's take a look at this here, see if this plays.
A boom shook neighborhoods across central Texas today. And in northwest Austin, and
let's fix this. Oh boy. Hold on, you guys, let me fix this.
Out there.
Put it
a little bit in
right here. Okay, this should work.
explosion around noon today. A much afternoon. We couldn't even get into the street. The right Travis County emergency officials, and we're told at one point even the FBI.
Up close, it's a pile of rubble. And from above, it's a gaping hole in this Northwest Austin neighborhood.
And I heard this loud boom, and I thought maybe a branch had fallen down on my roof.
Carol Hassel was at home during the explosion.
All of a sudden, the ceiling fan in my bedroom, there was this explosion, and the ceiling fan fell to the floor.
The force of the explosion bent her garage door in and shattered.
It didn't just bend the garage door in, it imploded the garage door.
Shattered her windows. She lives across the street from the two-story home at the epicenter of the explosion, off Double Spur Loop and DK Ranch. Two people who were inside the now leveled house are in the hospital. One has critical injuries, along with another person who was in the home next door and had to be pulled from the rubble.
So explosions.
Notice how they minimize this, like, oh, nothing to see here. Entire house got leveled, blew out windows a mile away. Nothing to see here.
Can have a variety of injuries, especially primary and secondary homes. So there's anything from burns to just...
Oh, don't worry about the FBI showing up. That's normal.
Fractures from the explosion.
Altogether, fire officials say 6 adults were injured, including 2 firefighters with minor injuries. There's no word on what caused the boom, but Texas Gas Services confirms it was not serving the home.
No underground gas service to any of these residences, but they do have propane tanks.
But they do have propane tanks. So why didn't they show the destroyed tank? Or say if that home specifically had a propane tank. He just said they had propane tanks. So it was almost as though he was being intentionally ambiguous, right? Because think about it. I have a propane tank in my backyard, and it's probably about 10 or 15 yards away from the house. If that tank were to blow up, there would be a direction of the blast, wouldn't there? And the center of the blast would be where the propane tank is. Now, even people that do bury their propane tanks, they don't bury them under the house because you would need access to the propane tank. In fact, there are rules about how far away, if you're going to bury your propane tank, how far away it needs to be from the house. And so what is this about? Like, what's going on here? Because the entire home is leveled, not the epicenter of wherever this propane tank was, that they're not even telling us where it was on the property. It's like they're hiding it.
Whatever caused the quake was so powerful, people reported feeling it for miles, including Austin City Council member Krista Lane.
It
sounds to me like a drone strike.
Shook my entire house, and it has reverberated throughout Northwest Austin. I absolutely needed to be here to find out exactly what is at play.
Others, like Heather Parson, who lives nearby, thought a tree fell on her house.
We was just walking around my house, and all of a sudden the house shook, and I heard a boom. It sounded like a tree limb had fallen on our roof.
At least 24 homes are damaged, and a vehicle parked outside the home of the explosion caught fire.
Almost seeing not only the impact of the explosion that happened to the house itself, but seeing the houses around it that were affected, with garage doors blown in, windows blown in, doors blown off, and just knowing that I was a few miles away and I could still feel it.
A few miles away, she could still feel it. Wow.
That's just incredible.
Unfortunately, we're told some pets are still unaccounted for. We did see animal control out here today.
That's so sad. Can you imagine a dog walking around just like literally like, I mean, you know, like these poor pets, because they're small creatures. And with a blast that huge that could dent in a garage door, these pets could be a mile away or something if they're still alive.
Trying to help with that. The Travis County Fire Marshal's office will be the ones leading this investigation, and they don't believe that any criminal charges are going to come out of this.
Oh yeah, nothing to see here. What do you guys think about this? Are we drone striking our own people in America? Now we've done, let's see, probably about 8 or 10 videos on house explosions over the last probably 6 or 7 years, haven't we? And I told you guys from the very beginning that I thought that they were suspicious, because back then they used to show us aerial footage, detailed aerial footage. You could see where the propane tank was, and you could clearly see that the direction of the blast was not from the propane tank. Yes, the propane tank was destroyed in some of these blasts that we've covered in the past, but you could tell that it didn't come from the propane tank. And we tried to look into some of these people, and mysteriously, none of them had social media footprints of any kind. You couldn't backtrack any information. It was almost as though they were scrubbed from the internet before they were destroyed and taken out. The news never tells us who they are. They just show us their destroyed home. So, wow. Now, let's get into some of these other stories. Okay. Oh, here we go. This is a big story. Donald Trump authorizes U.S. military to take control of land on southern border. Essentially, what's happening here is an encroachment into this area and a strategy that we've seen before, right? It's like the strategy that Israel used in Gaza. And we all know what happened after that, right? So we can expect hostages, whether or not the story is real, on these border towns that are now going to be turned into a war zone, literally. We can expect collateral damage in some of these border towns that are on the U.S. side of the border, as they say that they're going to root out these terrorists that they've been deemed. Do you see the setup here? It's all headed toward a specific direction. Now, a lot of people agree with this, and I agree that we should be tough on our border, and I agree that we should have the military patrolling the border. The problem is, here's the problem, is this is now going to be a proving grounds to desensitize our troops to residential, domestic, house-to-house fighting and civilian interaction. It's going to turn into another Gaza situation on some level. Now, I understand that the population on the border is much, much, much less than the border between Gaza and Israel, but it's going to be something to that effect. We are recreating what there is in Gaza. And if you don't think that that's happening, understand Trump also wants a golden dome, just like the Iron Dome. So literally, America is becoming a large scale version of Israel, which is, to me, is just creepy on its face. It's just weird. So here's the story, you guys. Now, a lot of other channels have already covered this, so I'm not going to read through this article, but those are my thoughts on what's happening, as this land has now been slated as military DOD controlled land on our border. Okay. Now, what else is going on? Well, Melania is in a bit of trouble. Her meme coin, she's stuck in some kind of scandal. Now, we did stories on Melania's cryptocurrency years ago, back when Trump was president the first time. And remember, at that time, we were calling out her crypto connections. Why? Because Trump was saying on the other side, oh, he condemned crypto, while she was selling it on Twitter. And I showed you the timelines and the dates and all this. And that was the clue that we had that told us that Trump would adopt crypto at some point so that he could segue us into the digital currency. And sure enough, the rest is history. Trump indeed did do exactly that. He is now the face of crypto, the crypto king, just like we said he would be. Now, back then, when I was saying all this, people were like shocked. They're like, no way. Trump said that crypto was the largest threat to the American dollar. Well, he wasn't lying, was he? He literally told us the truth, but for the wrong reasons. He knew it was the threat to the dollar because it's going to be the digital currency. These people lie by telling the truth, right? And so this is what's going on, you guys. We're now in crypto, the crypto age, under the father of crypto, Donald Trump. Let's read about this scandal. Meme coin scandal hits Melania Trump. Blockchain firm Bubble Maps claims Melania Trump's meme coin team sold $30 million worth of tokens from community funds without offering any public explanation. Apparently that's illegal. I didn't know that. A blockchain analytics firm has alleged that the team behind the Melania meme cryptocurrency moved $30 million worth of tokens. These were taken from community reserves without explanation. Bubble Maps revealed that the tokens were transferred to a single wallet. They were then dispersed across multiple addresses, with millions already sold or sent to exchanges. Neither the team nor co-creator, Hayden Davis, has commented on the transfers. Melania was launched in January to coincide with Donald Trump's return to the political spotlight. Since then, the token has plummeted by more than 96%, dropping from a high of over $13 to just 51 cents. Wow. So that's what's going on, you guys. You can come back here into the chat and we can hang out for a bit. But those are the stories, and that is the update on Black Mirror. Wild times. Good morning, everybody. Where does part about cryptocurrency is that? Have you ever been able to close your wallet out? They will not let you close it out by taking your money completely out. Wow. First time hearing about a Melania token. Yeah, we covered it. Gosh, yeah, it was during the first Trump presidency. I think probably around the pandemic is when we were looking at crypto and Melania. Melania's Eyes. That was actually, I think, a different, maybe it was the same one. I don't know. But it was called Melania's Eyes. Many of you will remember that video. There was some artwork attached to an NFT. That's what it was. That might have been different than this, but needless to say, she was already on about that while Trump was saying he didn't like crypto and he hated it. And he did an about face. So Bonita did saw a short video on the military there with the added motion sensors. I mean, can you imagine living on a border town? You got military flying overhead, driving through the city with all this technology, facial recognition, stopping people in the street. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in a place like that. So, smart meter explosion sounds like a good theory. Yeah, I think they're drone striking people. That's what I think. Yes, Smile on Sunflower says cat eyes. Yes, Melania has the cat eyes. All right. So I'll put links to all the stories from today. All right, you guys, I guess I'm going to pop off here. Thanks for showing up, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. I'll probably see you tomorrow with a couple more headlines, and probably the next Black Mirror episode is what I'll work on today. And hopefully there'll be something I can present to you. Have a great rest of your day, you guys. Much love. Take care.